need to know this. This morning, the First Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the Defense of Marriage Act, which denies same-sex couples federal benefits, is unconstitutional. Essentially, the judges, two of which were Republican appointees, ruled that by defining a marriage between a man and a woman, the law discriminates against gay and lesbian couples. Since that law was passed in 1996, this is the first time a federal appeals court has ruled against it. And it might have something to do with a decision made last year by President Obama when he instructed his Justice Department to no longer defend DOMA in court. That prompted Speaker of the House John Boehner and his Republican buddies to hire their own high-priced lawyer to defend the discriminatory law and to force you and me, the taxpayers, to pay Boehner's legal fees. Ultimately, the Supreme Court will likely have the final say in this matter, just as they had the final say in approving interracial marriage and decriminalizing homosexuality. So stay tuned. In the meantime, though, we still have to deal with the crazies out there who think that we're living in the Bronze Age. For example, Kansas pastor Curtis Knapp of the Hope Baptist Church. He says that gays should be put to death because that's what the Bible says. So if we're going to organize society around Bronze Age legal standards, let's go the whole route. Right? For example, the Bible says in Leviticus, if anyone curses his father and mother, he must be put to death. So if your kids talk back, get out the stones. Or to update things, keep your guns loaded. In fact, to help Pastor Knapp, here's a quick list of people who have insulted their parents so he can lead the crusade for their death. Drew Barrymore's dissed her parents, as has Macaulay Culkin, and Angelina Jolie, and Michelle Williams. I wonder when Pastor Knapp is going to ask his congregation to bring in their unruly children so everyone in the congregation can participate in the mass execution. You know, the Bible also says in Leviticus, anyone who blasphemes the name of the Lord is to be put to death. The entire assembly must stone them. Anybody in the congregation ever in their lives said, God damn? Put them to death! Everybody in the congregation should form a circle around the malefactors and stone them to death. And then, should anybody in the good pastor's church do anything other than going to church on Sunday? Put them to death! After all, as the Bible says in Exodus 31:14, observe the Sabbath because it's holy to you. Anyone who desecrates it must be put to death. Whoever does any work on that day must be cut off from his people. You know, his church can go from house to house looking for people who are doing home repairs or mowing their lawns on Sunday. Kill them all! And, of course, they should firebomb each and every business and shoot the workers as they flee the flames. After all, it's in the Bible. And how many of those men in the congregation married women who are not virgins? Well, the Bible has a remedy to that. Bring those fallen women into the church and put them to death. Deuteronomy 22:20. If the tokens of virginity be not found for the damsel, then they shall bring out the damsel to the door of her father's house, and the men of the city shall stone her with stones until she dies. On the other hand, if any man in the church sees a virgin he likes and who doesn't want to marry him, but even if she doesn't like him and doesn't want to get married, the Bible has a solution. This is the so-called traditional marriage from the Bible. All he has to do is rape her. In Deuteronomy 22:28, if a man finds a damsel that is a virgin who is not betrothed and lays hold on her and lies with her, she shall be his wife. Now, this is just the beginning. Religious statutes, religious statues, graven images, put them to death. People who eat shellfish, people who wear clothing made of two types of fabric, doomed. And remember when Nancy Reagan was choosing the days for Ronnie to sign legislation or make speeches based on astrology and advice from a medium? Bible says they should both be put to death. So Pastor Knapp, get your bedroom, astrology, and virginity police well organized. America will be such a better place if people like you are successful at taking us back to the Bronze Age biblical law. Now, to get some more opinions on this issue, I want to turn it over to my panel. Joining me now, Chris Geidner, senior political writer at Metro Weekly, and Jimmy LaSalvia, founder and executive director of GOProud. Great to have both of you back here on the program. My rant aside, it's, how important, Chris, how important was this ruling?
This was a really important ruling. This is the first time that a federal appeals court has heard and decided on the constitutionality of Section 3 of DOMA. And the court held unanimously by a panel that 2 of the 3 judges were appointed by Republican presidents, that the federal definition of marriage is unconstitutional, and that 1996 law can't restrict how the federal government is going to recognize state-sanctioned marriages.
Jimmy, I read the ruling today, and I think it's on page 26 or 28. There's a really interesting comment. They said, tradition is the glue that binds society together. And for 150 years, our courts did not really take on tradition. But in the last 50 years, we've examined a variety of them and found them, I'm paraphrasing now, and found them to be unconstitutional or even barbaric. Things like slavery, miscegenation laws, separate but equal. And they basically put this in that same category. As a Republican, what's your take on this?
Well, my take on the ruling is that it is the state's purview, and that, you know, the Constitution.
And that's what they ruled.
Right, is that the Constitution lays out a set of rules, and we all have to play by the rules, whatever side of the issue that you're on. And the Congress is not given the power to determine marriage and family law. And that's what the Constitution says.
But the Congress is given the power to determine tax laws and tax codes, inheritance laws, things like that. Those generally don't vary from state to state. They are federal. And those federal statutes have words like marriage and spouse in them. Shouldn't states respect those?
But the Congress has always respected, until DOMA, the definition of married and spouse that's determined at the state level, and that's how it should be. And so that's, you know, this is a step.
Even for federal tax law?
If the Congress determines that the marriage is the criteria, then the states determine what that definition is. Always has been, always will.
Chris,
It's true. I mean, there was, I mean, I was at the oral arguments up in Boston in April, and the judges asked Paul Clement, who is representing the House Republican leadership that's defending the law, asked him whether or not the federal government had ever tried to create such a wholesale definition of marriage before, and the bottom line was that they hadn't, and that's what he said, and that, I think, was something that we saw today in the unanimous opinion was a real concern for the judges.
Well, that's interesting, Jimmy.
I mean, the bottom line is, I don't know anybody less qualified to determine who should be married than, I guess, maybe the people in Hollywood about who should be married. And I happen to be, as you know, a big supporter of the Tea Party and the movement that wants to return the government to constitutional principles. And I think that this is a great example of how we need to look at every law and apply the Constitution. And
but the Tea Party is by and large not down with gay marriage.
The Tea Party has said nothing about gay marriage. Every Tea Partier I know is concerned about the size and scope of government and the role of government in our lives. And that in fact, this is what was ruled today. Is
sanctioning marriage is something that only government can do.
State government. That's what the Constitution has left that power to the state.
I agree, but the federal government then has to recognize that.
And that's what the court said.
So you're okay with a situation where a married couple in Massachusetts can file as married on their federal income tax, but a gay married couple in Oklahoma, which was married in Massachusetts but lives in Oklahoma, they can't.
That's a completely different question about whether state bans on gay marriage are constitutional. Completely separate.
Do you think
question.
they're unconstitutional?
I happen to think that if something is legal for one group of Americans, it should be legal for all Americans. So I happen to believe that gay people should be married, allowed to get married.
State to state,
So,
okay.
I mean, I think that Mary Bonato, who's the lawyer from Gay and Lesbian Advocates and Defenders that brought the case, I mean, when she's describing the case to people, she says this is sort of the classical equal protection case. This is a situation where throughout the entire history of the country, the federal government hasn't felt the need to legislate in this area. And then with one group of people, one time, the federal government decided we're going to make a definition that is only intended to exclude people from, at that point, remember, it was hypothetical. There weren't even any same-sex couples who could get legally married. Right. So it was, we're going to ban a hypothetical possible group from receiving the same benefits as other groups.
I mean, I find it amazing that the 14th Amendment, which is what guarantees equal protection under the law, has been used to establish the rights of corporations as persons, but not the rights of gay couples.
Right. But that wasn't the question in this case. You know, the question in this case was, can the federal government overreach, in my opinion, and in the court's opinion, to define
I mean, the court went into the fact that in a situation like this, where the federal government has historically not played a role and the states have played the significant role, when the federal government overreaches like that and goes into that territory, that subjects the law to additional search by the court that's looking at whether or not it's constitutional.
And that's quite reasonable. 10 seconds left. What do you guys think the Supreme Court's going to do on this?
I think they're going to take the case because it's striking down a law passed by Congress.
Well, that's what they're for. They're there to keep Congress from playing out of bounds.
According
and
to
that's
Marbury.
what they're good.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. Chris, Jimmy, thank you very much for being with us again.
Thank you.
And the march towards civil rights for all Americans continues.